Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a tragedy in Knott County. We skipped ahead. No, we didn't. Yeah, a tragedy in Knott County where a child was killed in a possible animal attack.
And we take you to Pulaski County where one family is sending a message of forgiveness to the man convicted in a deadly drunk driving crash.
And one bill in Frankfort is leaving many local pharmacists hopeful for their financial futures.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning.
The time is 6:28 on February 19th. I'm Madison Perdrum.
And I am Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning into Mountain News this morning on this Wednesday.
Trying to take my lines.
I'm always trying to speak for you, Madison. I'm sorry.
Well, it is a pretty day. It's going to be a pretty day outside and throughout the weekend. Maybe some clouds tomorrow, but we can get through that.
Drops or flakes of snow too.
I rather prefer snow or rain right now.
Yeah, oh, me too.
Well, let's go to Brandon Robinson to get the verdict. Brandon.
Yeah, I do think we could see a possibility for a few flakes or raindrops tomorrow near the border. So, Will, I'm sorry, I doubt we'll see any up this way, but right there along the Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee border. But even then, nothing substantial. This morning, clouds is the name of the game. Let's take a look and see what's going on satellite and radar. Again, we're going to continue to watch a few clouds around this morning, and then they'll start to fall apart for all of us here as the cold front continues its trek through the mountains outside WYMT. Things are fairly quiet right now. Temperatures 30 in Moorhead, 28 now in Lexington, 38 Harlan, 39 here in Hazard, 36 in London, 34 in Pikeville, 33 in Prestonsburg, but 40s down toward Middlesboro and Jacksboro this morning. Feels like when you factor in a little bit of a wind chill, feels like the mid-20s in some locations and low 30s in others where it's a little bit on the warmer side in general. So again, your day planner is going to take us to about 45, so not a lot of warmth to be had today, but the sunshine will make an appearance later on this afternoon. We'll talk about the extended forecast coming up here in just a little bit. Madison?
Thank you, Brandon. Well, a boy is dead following a possible animal attack in Knott County. This all happened in the Emelina community along Kentucky 1102. Kentucky State Police, the Knott County Sheriff's Department, and multiple other agencies were on scene. The call came in around 6 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, and the body was taken out around 9 p.m. Police say the boy was found along the mountainside behind the home, and that the pouring rain and elements heightened the difficulty of the investigation. And those in all the agencies agreed these calls are never easy.
It's a really difficult thing to go through, but you know, part of being a professional in law enforcement or as a first responder, you got to take care of business first, and then you got to deal with that yourself too, to some degree. But obviously, the biggest focus has to be on this family at this time.
His body was sent to Frankfort for an autopsy, and officials hope this will shed some light on the situation and reveal what exactly happened. This is an ongoing investigation.
Also in Knott County, state troopers arrested a man after a child pornography investigation yesterday. According to a release, 55-year-old David Branham now faces a first-degree charge of possessing or viewing matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor. He could spend the next 5 years in prison if convicted. Branham was taken to the Kentucky River Regional Jail.
Now to Laurel County, that's where a father faces abuse charges after deputies say he left his 8-year-old daughter at home alone. Deputies arrested Luke Friends, and they say a neighbor spotted the girl playing outside alone. The girl said her father was at work at the time, and deputies eventually got in touch with Friends when he drove home. They say his license was suspended because of a DUI charge, and Friends is charged with endangering the welfare of a minor and driving on a DUI suspended license.
A pair of off-duty Elizabethtown officers were in the right place at the right time while on a date. Take a look at this. It is at the Raising Cane's on Bardstown Road Saturday night. A man walks into the restaurant, pulls out a gun, and points it at an employee. In the back of the restaurant, you see Nicole and Chase McCowan, two off-duty officers. They quickly get up with guns drawn and chase the suspect out of the restaurant. The couple says this was a good test of their trust and teamwork.
It's just another, like she said, another layer of trust that just adds to and shows that, you know, I don't have to worry about making sure she's okay. She doesn't have to worry about making sure I'm okay. We just take care of it.
The suspect was identified as 30-year-old Justin Carter. He is charged with robbery, receiving stolen property, and possession of a handgun by a convicted felon.
And Floyd County deputies carried out a string of investigations, netting their largest meth bust in years. Look at this picture. Sheriff John Hunt says that is more than 5 pounds of crystal meth. They also found numerous guns and more than $5,000 worth of stolen property. Through 4 investigations, deputies arrested 8 people. Their names and charges have not been released yet.
Well, investigators raided clinics in Harlan, Pike, and Floyd counties yesterday. Here is the scene at behavioral health professionals in Harlan. The FBI is leading the investigation. Agents, along with state police and investigators from the Kentucky Attorney General's Office of Medicaid Fraud and Abuse Control, carried out, quote, judicially authorized activity. The scope of that investigation is unclear at this time.
And a man who admitted to driving drunk during a deadly Somerset crash is up for parole today. James Harmon has served almost 5 years of his 15-year sentence for killing Sandra Drury. Now her son John says he wants to see Harmon set free. He says his mom was a woman of faith. She was actually killed while driving to church back in 2015. It's that same faith that drives John's call for forgiveness.
I know people don't understand it, that, you know, eye for an eye. But I believe there's a lot of good people in prison. They just made a wrong choice.
John says he is planning to meet face-to-face with Harmon regardless of whether he is paroled or not. That decision will be made later today.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced yesterday that Kentucky will receive more than $1 million in transitional housing funds.
That money will go to help provide housing for people in recovery as they adjust from treatment facilities to the workforce.
The funding comes from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
And a bill in Frankfort is on the minds of some local pharmacists.
Those who are struggling financially hope this bill provides some relief.
I talked with a pharmacist about the bill and what it could accomplish. Richard Sloan has spent nearly 25 years serving the Hazard community.
We know the patients, we know their families, we know how long they, what medications they're taking.
In recent years, though, things have changed at his pharmacy.
We don't have to just, say who is this person. We know our patient. 2
things determine how much your typical prescription costs: a dispensing fee and actual cost of the drug. But lately, those factors are leading to less profit.
It gets to the point that eventually you just have to say, is it really financially feasible, financially worthwhile to be in business?
As a local pharmacist, he's looking to Senate Bill 50 for help.
Senate Bill 50, what we want it to do is to level the playing field so small business people, such as myself, and even your larger chains, such as Walgreens, can get an adequate reimbursement for the product. Currently, our competition really determines what our reimbursement is and how much it's going to be.
Here's how it works. A pharmacy benefit manager, or PBM, is somewhat of a middleman. Right now, they have a lot of influence between local pharmacies like Richard and the state.
Senate Bill 50 just affects Medicaid. It does not affect Medicare. It doesn't affect public employees, public retirees, teacher retirees, that type of thing.
The bill would limit the influence of those PBMs and open up more communication with the state, something that is not as prevalent right now. Sloan says currently, small pharmacies are impacted the most. Some might even shut down.
For anyone that's on Medicaid, if you have to drive a great distance, it's very expensive, and you don't get that good service.
But he is hoping this bill can help him keep his doors open. By removing the impact of the PBMs, Richard says it would make him more profit and save the taxpayer money. This so he can continue operating.
The biggest thing is knowing them, knowing what they need and caring about them.
And continue to do what he does every day, help people. Now, Senate Bill 50 is now pending in the Senate Rules Committee.
A new machine at Pikeville Medical Center is changing the game for patients. The ECMO machine. The machine is a life support machine that works as an external artificial lung machine. It takes blood out of the body, removes carbon monoxide, and oxygenates red blood cells, all while allowing the patient to rest.
Other than just let the lungs heal, we're able to let them rest and heal faster, or even at all. Sometimes they couldn't heal at all, even being on a ventilator. But with the ECMO machine, we're able to do the work for the lung or the heart, and they're able to get better when they may not have before.
PMC is now the only hospital in the region and one of only a few hospitals in the state to offer the ECMO as treatment.
Also in Pike County, cleanup efforts are still underway in the Draffing community after Thursday's train derailment sent 2 men to the hospital. Crews worked in the area this past weekend, laying rock and gravel to provide more stability so equipment could get to the train cars. The cars were removed yesterday and they were brought out of the Russell Fork River back onto the tracks and into the bottom next to the crash site. The train was carrying ethanol, and officials say soil and water samples will be tested continually as cleanup efforts continue.
The former chief executive officer of Brady Industries is suing the company. A release indicates that former CEO Craig Bouchard is also suing all 4 board members over his firing. The aluminum mill is being built near Ashland amid some controversy. Former Governor Matt Bevin invested $15 million of taxpayer money into the project. The company was criticized for its $200 million deal with the Russian company. Just last week, in front of lawmakers, company leaders said they still need about $500 million in financing. Bouchard claims his firing jeopardized some financing for the company.
Forecast this morning starting to get a little bit foggy in some areas, down to 5 miles visibility at Wise, 8 at Jackson and Hazard, 9 over toward London, and 7 in Harlan. So give yourself plenty of time to get around this morning. Patchy, dense fog. And here's our camera at UVA Wise, and you're starting to see some of that fog pick up there like the sensor is showing. Temperatures across the region in the 30s for the most part, 30 in Moorhead, 42 in Middlesboro. That's our range this morning as you head out the door. So bundle up, grab some extra coffee. Don't think you'll need your ice scraper, except maybe if you're in those northern counties where the clouds cleared out a little faster. Most of us still under the cloud deck this morning. Out the door forecast, we are going to see temperatures only get into the mid-40s this afternoon, but the good news is clouds will decrease and we'll see some sunshine as we head deeper into the afternoon. So that's always some good news. Will.
Yes, it is, Brandon. Thank you. Well, it's 6:40. Thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning.
Coming up, we'll have a pet in our studio looking for a good home.